So let's solve this quadratic graph. We're trying to solve for x. So here's our first parabola, and here's our second parabola. One's a happy face, one's a sad face. Let's just use algebra, setting them equal to one another. Let's expand this out. We have x squared minus 4x plus 4, and we have minus something plus 5. And that something happens to be a binomial squared, which becomes a trinomial, x squared plus 2x plus 1. We distribute the negative sign, so we get negative x squared minus 2x. We have minus 1 plus 5 is plus 4. And we have x squared minus 4x plus 4. Let's now throw everything to the left. We have x squared plus x squared is 2x squared. We have minus 4x plus 2x is minus 2x. And these 4's cancel, so we have equals 0. Let's factor out the GCF, 2x. Thus we have x minus 1 equals 0. When we expand this out, we have the equivalent expression above. Something times something is 0. Thus, x equals 0. That comes from here. 2 times 0 is 0. 0 times anything is 0. Or x equals 1. Because when x is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0. And 0 times anything is still 0. So we solve the two x values. Let's visualize this using Desmos. So here we have the x minus 2 squared graph being f of x. It is the happy face. It's the black graph here. Whereas the red graph here, the sad face, is negative x plus 1 squared plus 5. And they intersect at 0, 4 and 1, 1. Let's verify this 1, 1 answer. We already solved x equals 1. We'll say that when x equals 1, what is the y value? The y values are tied, so let's just substitute into f of x here. We'll say f of x, which is y, equals x minus 2 squared, and our x happens to be 1. 1 minus 2 is negative 1, and negative 1 squared is 1. So indeed, the point of intersection is 1, 1. Let's practice completing this square and identify the vertex. So imagine you want to be a drummer. We have an x squared x combo, but looking for that x squared x. But your parents say no, and we want to be a pilot. So the pilot requires more space. And we have a nice garage for the airplane that goes halfway, and it happens to be squared. Completing the square is about rewriting this into this form. Something squared. It's still a parabola. We don't write down x squared, we just write x. And we copy half of the coefficient of x. So instead of plus 4, we write plus 2. Now this bracket here represents your belly. You ate too much because you're celebrating becoming a pilot. So it's minus what? It's minus this number squared. It's 2 squared. It's always that number squared. And we copy down the plus 1 here. So we have x plus 2 squared minus 4. Remember that minus 2 squared equals minus 1 times 2 squared, which is minus 1 times 4, which is minus 4. Do not confuse this with minus 2 squared, which is just 4. So we go minus 4 plus 1 is minus 3. Thus, the vertex is the opposite of positive 2, which is negative 2, comma, the same value here, which is minus 3. We have the vertex. Let's complete the square on this one here. Here's a nice drum beat combo, bottom. Now let's switch to a longer version here. That's with a nice completed square version. We copy down the x and take half of this coefficient. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. And there's a bracket here. We always go minus this number squared. 1 squared is just 1, because 1 times 1 is 1. So the vertex is the opposite of this, which is 1 comma negative 1, the same value as this. Now be careful when completing the square with a coefficient other than 1. We must first factor. This x squared must be clean without a coefficient. So let's factor out the 2. We have 2 x squared plus 4x, and let's leave this negative 3 out to the side in the doghouse. We underline the dream job. You want to be a drummer, but only this part here is the part that we're completing the square on. The rest we're just factoring out the 2. So let's leave lots of room for the airplane. And we copy down the minus 3 here. We have a nice bracket squared. The x squared becomes x, and the plus 4 becomes half of that, which is plus 2. Do not write 2x, just write 2. And there's a bracket here. You always minus this number squared, which is 4. And we now use distribution. You multiply to the first term, and you multiply to the second term. So what do we get? We get 2x plus 2 squared. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. And this minus 3 is just on the side. So we have it. We completed the square. Minus 8 minus 3 is minus 11. And the vertex is beside the x value. The opposite of positive 2 is negative 2. And the y value is right here. This a value of 2 means the graph, the parabola, is stretched vertically by a factor of 2.